Hello everyone, you're now with me, Ruben Gomez, for the Nightline. The Employees Provident Fund, EPF, announces the details and requirement of access to Account 1 under the I-Sinar facility. After a thorough study and assessment, the EPF has taken the step to widen the scope of I-Sinar to cover active members who have lost their jobs, given no pay leave or have no other source of income.
I-Sinar will now benefit 2 million eligible members and result in a total estimated value of 14 billion ringgit to be made available. Eligible members can start applying from December 2020. Funds will be credited into members' bank accounts by the end of the month following their I-Sinar application. First crediting will take place in January 2021.
If you withdraw, that means there is a certain reason why you want to withdraw it, like unless you've been retrenched from work, sudah hilang pekerjaan, that you cannot find job during this COVID time. So I think it's reasonable that you withdraw. But if you still can afford it, food on the table, education for your children, day in, day out, every day. So I don't think it's necessary because EPF money is something valuable to everyone, you see. It's for your hari tua. So that means right now we look, our environment has changed. So the most important thing is health.
Advances will be made over a period of 6 months from the first date of crediting. Generally, eligible members will have access to 10% of their savings in Account 1, subject to always having a minimum balance of 100 ringgit. For those who have above 90,000 ringgit in Account 1, they have access of up to 10% of their Account 1 savings. However, the maximum total amount allowed to be advanced is 60,000 ringgit. The amount advanced will be staggered over a period of 6 months with an increased first advance of up to 10,000 ringgit. The Provident Fund Board expects that the I-Sinar program will benefit 2 million qualified members, and it is estimated to provide 14 billion ringgit to qualified members.
我个人看法是，如果是给那些比较真的是经济有问题的话，真的是很大的帮助啦。因为有些人要找工也是很难，对，现在经济也是不是很好，这样之类的，所以我觉得是个好东西。可是如果你自己本身是不必要的，就不要去拿吧，对，省给未来的一个钱。
Deputy Chief Minister Dato' Amar Douglas Uggah Mas has been warded at a private hospital in Kuching after undergoing a minor operation to unblock an artery to the heart. According to a close aide, Uggah's condition was stable and he was applied for a month's leave to rest, adding that he had gone to the private hospital this morning as he was feeling unwell. As Uggah is also chairman of the Sarawak Disaster Management Committee, it is not immediately known who will be chairing its meeting in his absence or attend its regular press conferences to give the daily COVID-19 updates. However, full ministers who have deputized for Uggah at SDMC's previous COVID-19 press conferences are Local Government and Housing Minister Dato' Sri Dr. Sim Kui Hian and Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Dato' Abdul Karim Rahman Hamzah. Sarawak police are ready to face the state election, even though the contingent will not receive reinforcement to assist in effort to stem the spread of COVID-19. Its Commissioner of Police, Dato' Aidi Ismail, said police have been making preparations for the polls since June and prepared to face possibilities.
Setakat ini saya difahamkan kita tidak akan dapat bantuan daripada luar oleh kerana masalah COVID ini, dan insyaAllah dengan kekuatan yang sedia ada kita boleh mampu untuk menghadapi atau membantu kerajaan negeri dalam membuat proses pilihan raya negeri dengan sempurna insyaAllah.
Aidi believes with current manpower, they will be able to control security and hold a smooth election.
Dari segi aset, kita selain daripada aset-aset kita sedia ada ini, kita akan juga buat sewa-sewaan lah. Terutama kedang-kedang 4x4, perahu, bot dan sebagainya untuk kita ke daerah-daerah atau pusat-pusat pengundian yang jauh ke dalam pedalaman itulah. So kita akan buat sewaan dan juga kita dah pun kemukakan bajet kita kepada pihak keamanan untuk diluluskan bagi kita menampung keperluan sewaan-sewaan aset lah.
He added the state contingent will take initiatives to rent assets such as four-wheel drive vehicles and longboats to reach remote polling stations. Aidi was speaking to reporters after witnessing the handing over of duty between the new State Deputy Commissioner of Police Datuk Pisol Saleh and Acting Deputy Commissioner SAC Muhammad Hairuddin J. Hamid in Kuching today. Aidi said the safety aspects of the police personnel who will be at the front line will be given priority during the Sarawak state election, having the events in Sabah as a stern reminder here. A budget proposal has been submitted to Bukit Aman for personal protective equipment for frontliners. Meanwhile, Aidi said civil servants from Peninsular Malaysia who are working in Sarawak, especially teachers who will be on long leave during school holidays, can apply for police permit to travel interstate if they want to return home. He added police will issue interstate permits for those from red zones and they are required to comply with the stipulated standard operating procedures such as doing swab tests to ensure they are free from COVID-19 before travelling.
The National Archives cannot release classified documents as they come under the purview of the National Security Council, MKN and police. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Datuk Sri Nancy Shukri said the National Archives, which comes under her ministry, only keeps classified documents, but they still belong to MKN and police.
Ahli yang berhormat, rekod dokumen Majlis Gerakan Negara ataupun Mageran ada di bawah simpanan atau pegangan Arkib Negara Malaysia ataupun Arkib. Namun pemilikan dan sebarang butiran dalam rekod tersebut masih di bawah bidang kuasa Majlis Keselamatan Negara ataupun MKN dan Polis Diraja Malaysia atau PDRM. Oleh demikian, Tuan Dipertua, Arkib tidak mempunyai sebarang kuasa terhadap pembukaan rekod tersebut kepada orang awam. Arkib hanya bertanggungjawab membuka fail-fail rasmi, iaitu Arkib awam maksudnya, yang bertaraf terbuka untuk rujukan orang awam. Sekian.
She said in a response to a question from Tan Kok Wai, Cheras MP. Tan questioned about the release of classified documents on the May 13, 1969 racial riots on the siege on Kampung Memali in Kedah in 1985. The May 13 incident, considered the worst racial riots in the country's history, erupted after the general election that year and several hundreds were believed to have been killed. The Memali incident in Baling, Kedah, saw confrontations between police and supporters of religious teacher Ibrahim Libya, who resisted attempts to arrest him under the Internal Security Act. 18 people, including 4 policemen, were killed in the incident. Tan had proposed that the National Archives make public such information after 25 years.
Pertama iaitu rekod berkaitan keselamatan dan kedaulatan negara. Kedua iaitu rekod berkaitan isu sensitif negara. Ketiga ialah rekod yang melibatkan maklumat peribadi individu. Dan keempat, rekod yang taraf pengkelasannya masih tertakluk kepada agensi pewujud.
Among the highlights in Parliament today, the Ministry of Defence has been requested to beef up its presence at the Malaysia Indonesia borders to monitor issues pertaining to illegal immigrants. Kotas Mahan MP Rubiah Wang, who raised the matter, said the ministry should also boost the number of border control posts to at least 25 or 1 post per kilometre of border.
Sarawak merupakan negeri yang mempunyai persempadanan yang begitu panjang bersama dengan Kalimantan Barat, iaitu 1,881 kilometer, yang kini hanya terdapat 11 pos kawalan saja. Oleh itu, bagi memastikan keselamatan negara dan juga mengekang kemasukan parti-parti, saya mencadangkan agar kementerian menambah pos-pos kawalan ini daripada 11 pos kepada 25 pos kawalan, mewujudkan dan juga menambahkan anggota-anggota yang berkhidmat di kawasan berkenaan.
She said this when debating the 2021 supply bill expenditure in Dewan Rakyat. She said 221 illegals were detained and 29 were chased away since Ops Benteng was implemented in Sarawak on May 21. And of the total, 9 cases involved the smugglings of 215 items worth over 12.83 million ringgit.
Welcome back. The Ministry of Health, MOH, has announced changes to the new national immunization schedule for children, which is being implemented in stages beginning of this month. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah said the combination of 5 vaccine series will be replaced with 6 series vaccination program.
4 doses will be given to children at the age of 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, and 18 months. The new vaccine series covers 6 diseases, namely diphtheria, tetanus, pertussis, polio, hepatitis B, and Haemophilus influenza type B. Dr. Noor Hisham also said in a statement today that the hepatitis B vaccine that is administered after birth will continue, but doses given at 1 month and 6 months will no longer be required. This is due to the hepatitis B vaccine component that has been included in the 6 series vaccination program. The new immunization schedule would see children getting fewer injections, namely 5 instead of 7 previously. However, parents still need to take their children to healthcare facilities for observation, as stated in the Baby and Child Health Record Book. Dr. Noor Hisham also advised parents to report any adverse effect experienced by their child to healthcare personnel after each injection by returning the reporting form or lodge the matter directly to the National Pharmaceutical Regulatory Agency or NPRA.
The government is still of the view that the final report of the Cabinet Special Committee on the implementations of the Malaysia Agreement should be kept confidential. Deputy Minister in the Prime Minister's Department, Sabah and Sarawak Affairs, Datuk Hanifah Hajar Taib said the decision was taken after considering various aspects.
Untuk maklumat ahli yang berhormat, setakat ini kerajaan masih mengekalkan pendirian bahawa tiada keperluan untuk laporan ini didedahkan kepada umum. Keputusan ini dibuat setelah mengambil kira pelbagai aspek seperti perundangan, memandangkan isu kandungan dan perbincangan yang direkodkan adalah bersifat teknikal serta melibatkan perkara-perkara yang sensitif yang berstatus rahsia rasmi.
She said this during the question and answer session in the Dewan Rakyat. She was replying to a question from Datuk Muhammad Aziz Jaman, a warisan Sepanggar, who wanted to know if the report will be revealed to the public. Earlier, Hanifah Hajar had said the current government was only continuing the policies of the previous government and had no intentions to adopt delay tactics on implementing decisions reached by the previous committee.
The Works Ministry is prepared to train people who lost their jobs during the COVID-19 pandemic so that they would have the skills required to work in the construction industry. Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadilah Yusof said this would be done under a special program of the Construction Industry Development Board of Malaysia, CIDB, for the reskilling and upskilling of local workers.
Ditempatkan di IBM. Dan setakat ini mereka akan ditempatkan di sektor pembinaan selama 3 bulan. Dan setakat ini 289 yang telah dilatih dan ditempatkan kerja.
He was replying to a supplementary question from Datuk Robert Lawson Chuat, Betong MP, who wanted to know whether the ministry was conducting such training for workers from outside the building industry who had lost their jobs. As on the dependence on foreign workers, Fadilah admitted that the sector, which offers skilled and semi-skilled job opportunities, was short of local workers. On the number of Malaysian Building Academy trainees, Fadilah said since its inception in 1997, all 6 academy branches under the supervision of CIDB have trained 1,046,746 youth and 274,555 construction personnel in various skills.
Latihan dalam industri binaan di bawah ABM adalah salah satu inisiatif kerajaan dalam meningkatkan kemahiran dan kebolehpasaran pekerja tempatan. Ia selaras dengan usaha kerajaan untuk mengurangkan kebergantungan terhadap pekerja asing.
There are 1,020 schools categorized as dilapidated in Sarawak, with 415 of them in urgent need of attention. Igan MP Ahmad Johnny Nawawi said during the debate on the supply bill in the Dewan Rakyat that 433 schools had been rehabilitated while the remaining 587 were still undergoing repairs.
He suggested that the government provide a greater allocation in the 2021 budget to solve the problem of dilapidated schools and related education issues.
Saya juga memohon kepada Kementerian Pendidikan supaya sekolah-sekolah daif yang dibina nanti dilengkapi dengan kemudahan seperti Dewan Makan, Dewan Perhimpunan, asrama, kuartus guru dan lain-lain kelengkapan yang diperlukan.
As an analogy, he said that with the 1 billion ringgit allocation, only 133 schools could be rehabilitated and rebuilt yearly.
Selama manakah isu baki 587 buah sekolah daif di negeri Sarawak sekarang ini dapat diatasi sepenuhnya? Pada perhitungan saya, ianya akan mengambil masa selama lebih kurang 5 tahun. Itu pun kalau mendapat peruntukan 1 bilion. Kalau diandaikan negeri Sarawak mendapat peruntukan 500 juta setiap tahun, maka masalah sekolah daif di negeri Sarawak hanya akan dapat diselesaikan dalam tempoh lebih kurang 8 tahun. Dan kalau 250 juta setahun, bererti isu sekolah daif di Sarawak hanya akan dapat diselesaikan dalam tempoh 16 tahun.
For instance, in 2019, he said, Sarawak only received an allocation of 100 million ringgit for dilapidated schools that was only enough for 32 schools, and in 2020, Sarawak did not receive any allocation for the said matter.
The 2021 budget tabled during the peak of the third wave of the pandemic was seen as timely. The potential rise in food insecurity amid the pandemic has caused many countries, especially developing ones, to focus on optimizing natural resources.
As the people look forward to important incentives in planning current interests, especially to ensure the survival of the agriculture and food security industry, thus ensuring that the agriculture sector remains functioning as usual and supplying sufficient quality food at reasonable prices while consumers can get raw supplies during the movement control order and when facing loss of income. University Kebangsaan Malaysia, UKM, Faculty of Science and Technology, Department of Food Sciences Senior Lecturer Dr. Saiful Irwan Zubairi said following the seemingly endless pandemic, food security issues were seen to have a chain effect on the country. According to United Nations World Food Programme, some 265 million people worldwide are expected to face the risk of food insecurity by the end of 2020 due to the loss of income. However, the risk is seen as moderate in the country, especially with the various incentives given in the 2021 budget, including the microcredit financing through Tekun, Perbadanan Usahawan Nasional Berhad (PUNB), and Bank Simpanan Nasional (BSN) amounting to 1.2 billion ringgit to help the B40 and M40 groups. He also said the 30 million ringgit allocation for the e-rebate of 200 ringgit for the purchase of energy-efficient locally manufactured air conditioner or refrigerator would benefit smallholders in ensuring fresh produce. Meanwhile, University Putra Malaysia School of Business and Economics Deputy Dean Associate Professor Dr. Normas Wan Ismail said there were two main dimensions in food security that were given attention in the budget tabled on November 6. It involves the ability to buy food by providing various incentives in the form of cash or other incentives, as well as the provision of high financial distribution to the agriculture and food sector to ensure the food supply chain remains unbroken.
The Sarawak Fire and Rescue Department is prepared to face potential floods following the northeast monsoon that is expected to bring a high level of precipitation. Its director Kiruddin Rahman said the preparations include providing safety services at temporary shelters, especially now in the new norm.
Dan dalam masa yang sama juga di kalangan komuniti bertanya berkaitan dengan kesiapsiagaan Jabatan Bomba tambah kali dalam isu norma baru, tambah kali di pusat perpindahan sementara, yang mana telah diambil perhatian oleh bukan sahaja oleh Jabatan Bomba tapi oleh pihak SDMC Peringkat Negeri Sarawak dan juga arahan daripada Majlis Keselamatan Negara lah. Banyak perkara diambil kira sebab dalam norma baru ini pusat perpindahan sementara ini akan ketahui mengenai kekangan dan kita telah kena pasti beberapa isu yang perlu ditandai lah.
He said this during a press conference on the preparations by JBPM in facing the northeast monsoon on Tuesday. He added Bomba forces are grateful for the cooperation from other agencies that have assisted in rescue operations.
Dan kita dapat lihat dalam awal tahun ini rungutan daripada masyarakat berkaitan dengan kelewatan ini telah dapat diatasi lah. Dan terima kasih kepada pertama kali Kerajaan Negeri Sarawak dan juga SDMC serta Jawatan Kebajikan Masyarakat telah dapat membantu penugasan Jabatan Bomba dalam kerja-kerja memindah, menyelamat dengan lebih mudah lah. Sebab sebelum ini kebanyakan tugasan ini kita terpaksa menggunakan aset kita selain daripada membantu menyediakan tempat perpindahan, memindah mangsa lah. Tapi dengan adanya pendekatan yang baru di mana pusat-pusat yang disediakan makanan dah tersedia dalam tempoh untuk 2 minggu pertama bencana ni, kita dapati kerjasama di antara agensi telah dapat membantulah, dan kita mengharapkan bahawa pihak komuniti sendirilah dapat memberi kerjasama yang sewajarnya.
Welcome back. A policeman sustained injuries when the four-wheel drive vehicle he was driving to take a dead accident victim to hospital skidded and plunged into a ravine at an oil palm plantation at kilometer 52 Bari in Sungai Tong, Terengganu earlier today. Due to the impact of the incident, the corpse was thrown out of the vehicle while his accompanying family member suffered a broken right arm. The 1 p.m. incident occurred when the vehicle was on its way to Sertiu Hospital from Sungai Tong, carrying the body and a victim's family member, said Sertiu District Police Chief Deputy Superintendent Afendi Hussain. Afendi said upon arriving at the scene it was raining heavily, and due to slippery road conditions, the driver, a policeman with the rank of corporal, is believed to have lost control of the vehicle before it skidded and plunged into the ravine at an oil palm plantation. The police today dismissed allegations of the increase of crime rate in the country due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The severe situation has pushed the people in the country to lose their jobs, but fortunately, this matter indeed did not affect the crime rate in the country.
According to Bukit Aman Criminal Investigation Department Director Datuk Huzair Muhammad, there was a 23% reduction in the number of criminal cases between January 1st and November 15 this year compared to last year. Following the crime rate reduction, 1,056 cases were dropped compared to 2,216 cases last year, indicating a decrease of 47.7% in the total number of cases. He also said the number of criminal cases dropped by 16,719 from the 72,836 reported last year. Members of the public were saddened over the incidents of snatch theft in the country, which was circulated on social media recently. According to an online source, incident of snatch theft resulting from the suffering of loss of jobs in the country as a current national situation raised public anxiety over the matter. Datuk Huzair Muhammad advised the people to refrain from creating, sharing or circulating inaccurate or false news. He also highlighted in the awareness of public concern over the possible rise in the number of criminal cases, however mistaken over the assumption that the act of crime resulted from the loss of jobs during the pandemic.
Foreign nationals who wish to enter Malaysia should abide by the guidelines set by the government. Those who have signed the letter of undertaking as well as those who have received the travel note must adhere to this new directive. That includes paying the quarantine charges at international entry points.
The National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, said the government had issued the directive prior to many non-Malaysian persons under surveillance PUS failed to settle the administrative and management charges until the final day of their quarantine at the quarantine stations. According to NADMA, non-Malaysians, including dependents of Malaysians, will be charged RM150 per day based on quarantine duration at hotel premises, as well as administration and management charges of RM2,600 as stipulated by the Health Ministry. In total, a non-Malaysian has to pay RM5,070, including RM250 for the PCR test upon arrival and RM120 for the antigen rapid test kit on the 13th day. As a preventive measure to stem the spread of COVID-19 in the country, the government has decided that all individuals entering Malaysia from overseas are subjected to mandatory quarantine at gazetted quarantine stations since July 24th this year. NEDMA also explained that the Immigration Department has the right to issue the not to land order for non-Malaysian passengers who failed to produce their travel note. Following the directive, all individuals returning from overseas and entering Malaysia via the international entry points would have to bear the full quarantine cost.
The government plans to implement more stringent standard operating procedures for foreign workers, as well as extend the swab test requirement on those in the industrial sector. Senior Minister for Security Cluster, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said, currently, the government is waiting for a proposal on the matter from the Human Resources Ministry.
Ismail Sabri said they are in the midst of conducting a detailed study, noting that to date there are about 1.7 million foreign workers in Malaysia, and with such a large number, they are considering of the laboratory's capability in producing the results and who should bear the cost if we were to conduct the swab test on them. At a press conference on the development of the Recovery Movement Control Order, he said that over 1 million of the foreign workers contribute to the Social Security Organisation SOCSO. On Sunday, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah was reported as saying the cluster that has recorded the highest number of cases was the Damalela construction site cluster in Kuala Lumpur with 460 cases.
Well, that's all for me for the Nightline today. Ruben Gomez, anytime, anyway. Thank you.